Hello and greetings. Thanks for joining me, your host, for another delightful message brought to you by the guy behind Zack Miller Live. Oh yeah, that's me. I just thought maybe I would talk a little monotone and boring. Hi. Thanks for calling. Does that excite you at all? My guess is no. What's up, people? Zack Miller here, episode 90-something, 96 of Zack Miller Live, getting close to the 100th edition. Got to figure out what I'm going to do there. Or maybe I already know and I just haven't told you yet. Boom, boom, boom. Maybe that's a tease. Maybe I know exactly what I'm going to do. 100th edition, though, that's a big deal. Last time we had balloons. Probably no balloons this time, though. But I want to talk about your audience size. Now, this might seem like a simple thing, but I think that as you actually understand your audience, you will understand that that is probably a lot smaller than you originally thought. And I've actually gone through this myself. And it's painful to think that my audience is this big, so big it's not even on the screen, to something that's like, minute. So think like if the biggest thing in the world is a yardstick and this is actually like something super, super small, whatever that might be. I don't know. Something so minute, like a millimeter. So there's a couple of ways that you can figure this out, but ultimately I want to do this so that when you're thinking about this in your business, like I took notes, you can really gauge and understand what you're doing. The most important thing to do in this is to first understand, before we're thinking about how big is my audience, anything like that, the most important thing I believe to think about is, number one, are you doing something that you love? That's important. But number two is if this is just going to be a hobby and a thing that you love, everything that I'm about to say, basically disregard because it really won't matter. Now, if you're trying to create a career and a life out of this, one to help grow and expand your life, your family, that and make this a career, like I said, make sure that you really take notes on what I'm about to say. Now, oftentimes people think that their market is this huge thing, right? Oh, there's thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of potential customers. And that might be true. Here's where the challenge becomes. When they actually run the numbers and understand that, they aren't. So about, 6 or 7 years ago, I was really big onto, helping not only grow the Norfolk, Virginia Beach startup community where I live, but also took that data, that content that I created and tried creating a brand out of that. And I thought, just because I'm like, of course, there's startup communities everywhere. There's all these people in a startup community. I have millions of people interested. Okay? But when I really got down to it, I realized that there was only so many of me's in the world. Let's just say that there's roughly 280 different metros in the country. A metro is like the region that you live in, right? So New York is one, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, Chicago, where I live, Raleigh, Durham, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and then smaller places like Duluth, Minnesota, right? Each of those probably has a Zack Miller in their backyard. So I was like, I'm going to create this amazing business around selling the concepts and content that I've created and sell to those people. And you're like, wow, it's going to be amazing, until you realize how much they're willing to spend and how big that market really is. Which I was naive and was like, whatever, I just didn't necessarily build a business towards a group of people that was for the masses, which is okay as long as I can make enough money to survive. The problem is I was trying to make a career out of this, not necessarily just something that I loved, right? So when you try and put that career piece into it, it's a job. You got to make sure that that job pays everything that you need it to. And so think about this. So I've created a startup community. That's great, whatever. But then I try and sell it to other people. And so in my startup community, I make money one way. But then when I try and take the startup community and push it to other people, how much are they willing to pay? And so you have to figure out what they're willing to pay. But the big thing is this, and this is where I took notes because I wanted to make sure that this makes sense for you guys. So number one is, if you're doing this just as a hobby and something that you love, maybe you want to make a little bit of money on it, but it's really about just something that you love. Maybe disregard what I'm thinking, but also maybe think about it, because it could be powerful for you to make more money on it so that you can do the things that you want to do. Maybe actually you're losing money. Make sure you're not losing money. Get it back to the whoop, I'm making money, which I guess on the teeter-totter would be this one, the lower part. So price things to make money. So think about this. So think about, let's say you think I can get 1,000 customers. And of that 1,000 customers, I believe that there is a pool of 5,000 prospects or people that could become my customer, which means basically I believe that I can get 20% of the marketplace, 20% of the entire population of my target customer. Okay? And maybe that's just what you need to break even. Here's where it becomes a challenge. Maybe you need to get 1,000 customers, right? 1,000 customers, right? That are going to buy your product. That's what you need to break even, or whatever it is. That your goal is 1,000 customers. But then you recognize that there's only a pool of 500 people. So somehow you need to double that size of the audience, double your customer base, but the audience is only just a few people. You can't do it. So then you have to go and open up a little bit, realize it might not be a career, whatever it might be. I just want you to be thinking about numbers here, right? So if you believe that you have a big enough market that has enough people in it, you really want to make sure that that is actually verified so that you're not building a business, a tool, a process, a product, a service that actually doesn't have a lot of customers in it. Now, what did I ultimately do? I recognized that there was more individuals in each of those startup communities and started selling to those people. I didn't go just to the me's in the world. I would find out that there was different people that also wanted to help grow startup communities, and I would start reaching out to those people and selling to them. And so so what I did is I took this one little niche that I said, oh, look for the Zack Millers in every community. And I said, okay, look for the Zack Millers, but then also look for all the other people that are interested in the kind of the benefactors of what this startup community is doing, creating jobs, making more wealth for people, more money for the city, whatever, and who also had those kind of goals in their minds. And so then I would say, okay, it's not just for startup community leaders, it's for startup community leaders like me, and then all these other people who want these amenities and goals as well. And then I started reaching out to those people. So when you're thinking about, is the pool big enough? Make sure the pool is big enough, right? Make sure that the people that you need to sell to, there's enough of them for you to make enough bread so that you can continue that career that you want to. But then also what I want you to do is, if it doesn't seem like the pool is big enough, what ultimately are you providing to people? And are there other people that want that thing too that you just haven't thought about yet? Oftentimes there is, and you just have to figure out what exactly your end goals are, and can you provide them what they're looking for. Like I said, oftentimes there are, because you open up and you go, okay, I started this niche, but ultimately this is what I'm providing to people. Oh, over here, this group of people are also looking for what I'm ultimately providing. I'm just selling it to this group instead of that group as well. So, is your audience big enough? Have you even thought about what that number is? Now, honestly, if your number is something like, oh, my audience is 1 billion people, that's a lot of people. My audience is 50 million people. Really dig down to that. And that's like the global, yes, everyone in my audience is that big. Really make sure that your business is that big, and really I would at this point, where you probably are, is really try and focus in on one or two small portions of that group, win those groups, and then allow their wins and their love for you to help you expand into those other groups, right? Because just because you have a group of 50 million people that are interested or could be your customers doesn't mean that they're going to be. right? And so if you think about a bell curve, whoop, 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 whoop. It's a bell curve, right? Basically, I would only, because, all about drawing, I would only worry about, and I don't know how this looks on this, but the left side, I would only worry about right now, woo, as I ripped my paper, I would only worry about the left side. Those people that are like super early adopters, let's call them early adopters, raving fans, and I don't know, let's call them almost early adopters. And then people on the fence, and then people that are like mean. You're going to love my handwriting. Right? So on the left, we have super early adopters, and then you have the almost early adopters that are like, I just need a little bit of a kick in the butt to do it. And there's the people that are on the fence that really takes a while and years to do, and then finally the people that are like, this will never work. If we only focus on the left side of that bell curve in this process, guess what? It's like your low-hanging fruit, and I think you'll be a lot more successful. So, is the market that you are getting into, is the target customer base or the friends that you're creating, is there enough of them that are interested in what you're selling? Is there or not? I felt like Two-Face there. No. And if not, you probably need to open up your target customers a little bit to see where else you can help them as well. I think oftentimes people don't think about this, and then they're like, I'm getting so many customers, but I don't make enough money. It's because you didn't think about this exercise. So think about it. Appreciate you guys being with me today. Hope you guys have wonderful days. What is it, Tuesday, Wednesday? I don't even know what day of the week it is. But episode 100 is coming up. If you guys are not subscribed to wherever you're listening to this, obviously do it. This is clearly the greatest show ever made. But number 2, I'll be going to week 3 of my weekly Roundup. It's an email that I create, kind of putting together everything that I've done in the last week for the show. And it's like the top moments. It's something that's been fun. I've done it twice so far. Great engagement. And would love to give that to you too. So be sure to check out the show notes so that you can get that as well. If you guys have any questions, hit me up at Zack, Z-A-C-H, nope, Z-A-C-K, at startwithhatch.com. Until next time, peace.